The reason many Americans watch sports has shifted. Instead of the emphasis being on entertainment, it is now about the thrill of risky behavior. With the legalization of online sports gambling, watching for the love of game has dissipated, and watching to see if your bet will hit has increased. By putting money on the line, a normal regular season game with little meaning now becomes the most important game of the season. For college-age students and younger, having a $5 parlay to win $25 is exciting and innocent. But what happens when that excitement escalates to $100 bets and more than $1,000 for others? This is money for rent, the electric bill, and even money that could be saved for a rainy day and invested for future gains. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to 1992, when Congress passed a law titled the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. It banned states from legalizing sports betting with a handful of exceptions. Nevada got to keep its sports book. A few other states kept small sports lotteries. Everyone else was locked out. For 25 years, that was the law of the land, but it didn't stop Americans from betting. It just pushed the money underground or overseas. By the time the law was struck down, experts estimated Americans were illegally wagering somewhere around $150 billion a year, with roughly 97% of that action happening off the books through bookies, offshore websites, and office pools. New Jersey decided to fight back. The state spent years in court trying to legalize sports betting in Atlantic City, and the major sports leagues such as the NFL, the NBA, and the MLB actually sued to stop them. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and on May 14, 2018, the court ruled 6-3 that the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act violated the Constitution's anti-commandeering principle, essentially saying the federal government couldn't force states to keep gambling illegal. Delaware took the first legal bet within weeks. New Jersey followed almost immediately, with the state's governor placing the ceremonial first wager himself. And then it was a stampede. In 2017, exactly one state had a legal operating sports book. By 2024, 38 states had legal sports books running, and the total amount legally wagered had exploded from $4.9 billion in 2017 to more than $121 billion in 2023. 94% of that money was bet online and not at a physical counter. The last number is the whole story here. This isn't your grandfather's trip to a Vegas sportsbook anymore. It's an app on a phone that never leaves your hand. Here's the thing about a multi-billion-dollar industry built on convenience. Convenience cuts both ways. Making it easier to bet doesn't just grow the market, it grows the number of people who lose control of it. Researchers at UC San Diego wanted to measure the rise in gambling addiction since the legalization of online sports betting. They couldn't track every gambler's bank account, so instead they tracked something else. How often were people quietly Googling for help? They pulled Google search data from 2016 through mid-2024, looking for queries like gambling addiction hotline or am I addicted to gambling? What they found was striking. Since the Supreme Court's 2018 ruling, searches seeking help for gambling addiction rose 23% nationwide, which the researchers translate to somewhere between 6.5 and 7.3 million searches. And in states that legalized betting more recently, the spikes were even sharper and were up 67% in Ohio, 50% in Pennsylvania, and 47% in Massachusetts after their sportsbooks opened. The gambling industry disputes how alarming this really is. A spokesperson pointed out to reporters that the National Council on Problem Gambling estimates the overall problem gambling rate at only 1-2%, and that state-sponsored studies in places like Connecticut and Indiana haven't shown a rise in problem gambling since legalization. That's fair. Searching for a hotline isn't the same as clinical diagnosis. But by digging into the numbers of specific sports bettors, the picture gets harder to wave away. One industry survey found that among people who bet on sports through a computer or phone, 16% showed signs of a full gambling disorder, and another 13% were shown warning signs without yet meeting the clinical threshold, meaning roughly 3 in 10 online sports bettors were experiencing some kind of gambling problem. In a global meta-analysis published in 2024, pooling gambling studies from around the world found that the harmful rate of gambling in North America sits at 5.3%, nearly 3 times the 1.9% global average. Part of what's driving that gap is a basic misunderstanding of the odds. Surveys have found that a huge share of bettors genuinely believe that they could come out ahead over time. In 2024, 80% of online sports bettors said that they could reliably make money betting on sports. By 2025, that number had climbed to 86%. Among bettors 18 to 34, it was even higher at 90%. Sportsbooks don't lose money. They price their odds so the house wins over the long run. That's the entire business model, but the message doesn't exactly show up in their ads. Which brings us to a harder question. Who's actually seeing those ads? Walk through a modern sports broadcast and you'll notice betting content isn't a segment anymore, it's woven into everything. Point spreads scroll across the screen during pregame shows. Analysts talk through the best bets of the week like it's just another stat. And the endorsers aren't anonymous pitchmen. Leagues and sportsbooks have used genuine superstars, the kind of athletes kids grew up wanting to be. Researchers studying the trend have specifically flagged campaigns featuring athletes like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and David Ortiz, people millions of young fans already looked up to. That matters because adolescents' brains aren't finished developing the parts responsible for impulse control. A group of researchers and public health experts summed it up plainly. Young people's brains and impulse control keep developing into their 20s, which puts them at higher risk for problem sports betting, and as advertising normalizes the behavior, perceptions of harm go down. And the exposure isn't subtle. A study built around the 2022 World Cup found that among the young people surveyed, 95.6% could recall seeing ads for various types of bets, and 89.5% could recall ads for specific betting promotions. Nearly 2/3 remembered ads specifically for in-play live betting, which is the most compulsive form of the product. Where were they seeing all of this? Mostly on social media, where one study found young people recalled an average of roughly 10 to 14 sports betting ads per week just by scrolling through their feeds. Researchers have also looked at what techniques these ads actually use, and the pattern is consistent with how many products get marketed to a young audience. Music, humor, colorful characters, and celebrity endorsements. The same playbook once used to sell cigarettes and sugary cereal, just applied to a product that can drain a bank account in one bad Sunday. A 2024 study following young sports bettors found that marketing exposure was positively associated with problem gambling scores, and specifically, feeling influenced by an ad to place a bet or being drawn in by a bonus bet promotion predicted worse outcomes, even after accounting for how much someone gambled in general. None of this is technically advertising to 12-year-olds, but the line between researching adults and researching anyone with a phone or a television has basically disappeared, and the research is increasingly clear about who's absorbing the message. Which leads to the most uncomfortable part of this story, because the same leagues that once fought sports betting in court are now a part of its biggest promoters. Go back to 1992. The NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and NCAA were the plaintiffs suing to keep sports betting illegal, arguing and threatening the integrity of their games. Fast forward to the years right after the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act fell apart, and those same leagues raced to sign 9-figure deals with the exact industry they used to oppose. In 2021, the NFL announced its first ever official US sportsbook partnership. With Caesars Entertainment, DraftKings, and FanDuel's, the deal was worth a combined $1 billion over 5 years. Those deals gave sportsbooks the right to buy premium ad time during NFL broadcasts that were already pulling in $3.7 billion a year in advertising revenue, before betting companies even entered the picture. The NBA had been pushing in this direction even earlier, back in 2014, years before the Supreme Court ruling. Commissioner Adam Silver wrote a New York Times op-ed arguing in favor of legal, regulated sports betting well ahead of most of his peers. So here's the moral tension at the center of all this. Leagues now profit directly from the volume of betting on their own games, while simultaneously being responsible for policing the betting to protect the integrity of those same games. It's an arrangement where the incentive to grow the betting market and the incentive to prevent gambling-related corruption are sitting inside the same organizations, even sometimes the same office. The leagues will tell you they've built in safeguards,
responsible gambling messaging, age verification, integrity monitoring firms that flag unusual betting patterns. And to be fair, some of that infrastructure is real. The NFL, for instance, launched a $6 million responsible gambling campaign with the National Council on Problem Gambling. But it's hard not to notice that the party writing the safeguards is the same party cashing the sponsorship checks. And that tension isn't just theoretical, it's already produced real scandals. In March of 2021, Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley took a leave from the team to focus on his mental health. While away, with no access to the team facility, playbook, or coaches, he placed a series of bets on NFL games, including games involving his own team, totaling under $4,000. The league determined he hadn't used any inside information. It didn't matter. The rule is absolute though. No betting on your own league, period. Ridley was suspended for the entire 2022 season and reinstating the following March, a punishment that cost him a forfeited salary of over $11 million, all over a few $1,000s in wagers. And Ridley wasn't isolated. In the years since, the NFL has disciplined a growing list of players, coaches, and staff, with 7 players and at least 1 assistant coach found to have violated the league's gambling policy within a 5-year span. Then in April of 2024, the NBA delivered its harshest gambling penalty in decades. Toronto Raptors two-way player Jontay Porter, the younger brother of Nuggets star Michael Porter Jr., was banned from the league for life. The investigation found Porter had done something far more serious than Ridley. He disclosed confidential information about his own health status to a known bettor before a game, then deliberately limited his own playing time to influence the outcome of prop bets on his performance. In one game, he played 3 minutes and said he felt ill. An associate of his had placed an $80,000 parlay bet predicting Porter would underperform that very night, standing to win $1.1 million. The sportsbook froze the payout over suspicious activity. Separately, Porter had placed at least 13 bets on NBA games himself, using someone else's betting account, wagering over $54,000 total dollars. Commissioner Adam Silver didn't mince words, calling it nothing more important than protecting the integrity of NBA competition, and admitting the case raised real questions about whether the current regulatory framework, including exactly which kinds of prop bets are even offered on individual players, is sufficient. That's a remarkable admission from a commissioner whose league profits from the same prop bets every night. The Porter case didn't stay contained to one player though. The federal investigation it triggered eventually expanded to and implicated other figures in the sport, including a veteran NBA player and a former head coach, in a broader gambling-related indictment. Ridley and Porter represent two ends of the same spectrum. One was a guy who made a few $1,000s in a bad, low-stakes decision while on leave. The other allegedly manipulated his own performance for a payout. But both scandals happened inside a system where legal sports betting is now baked into the broadcast. The more normalized betting becomes, the more chances there are for the line between fan and insider to blur, and the league knows it. So where does that leave us? In less than a decade, sports betting went from a federally banned activity confined mostly to Nevada to a $121 billion industry that's fully integrated into how Americans watch sports, through the broadcast, through the athletes themselves, and through a phone that's always within reach. It's brought real tax revenue to states and real transparency to a market that used to run entirely through illegal bookies. But it's also brought a documented rise in people quietly searching for help. An advertising machine that researchers say is shaping how young people think about risk and money before they're old enough to fully weigh it, and a growing list of athletes whose careers have been derailed by a temptation that's now one tap away, in leagues that profit every time that tap happens. The industry likes to frame all this as fans having more fun, more engagement, more ways to love the game. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what it is. But for meaningful and a growing number of others, it's something else entirely. A cost that mostly happens in silence.